Iraq is a different place than just a couple months ago, and it's going in the wrong direction. Just today, a car bombing in Baghdad killed 41 people. In recent months, Fox 8 has carried a series of reports from two photographers who were embedded with Louisiana soldiers at war. Julie Demansky and Phin Percy witnessed that surge in violence. They arrived home late last week, and now the story of their extraordinary experience.
The first thing that struck me when we were driving away from the airport in Atlanta was the green, and I missed green. There's no green in Iraq.
Being back home is a little like landing on another planet.
This is an example of no power in the station.
After almost 6 months in the Iraqi desert, occasionally roughing it.
Are you enjoying your vacation?
The two photographers had followed National Guard troops patrolling the streets of New Orleans after Katrina. Their original plan was to follow the guardsmen to Iraq for 3 weeks.
You can't know Iraq in 3 weeks.
We were amazed at the stories over there that weren't getting back home.
Percy and Dermansky got hooked on other stories.
It's basically a reconstruction now, which draws so many parallels to New Orleans and Louisiana and the Gulf Coast.
And he says Louisiana is everywhere in Iraq.
Every day in the DFAC you'd see Tabasco.
Along with the armored vehicles made in Slidell and New Orleans East that patrol Iraqi streets.
It's got dual weapon systems. Nobody really messes with you.
To the Louisiana Aviation Brigade that runs Black Hawk helicopters. To the Louisiana engineers who scout for explosive devices along Iraqi roadways.
They basically go out at night looking for IEDs. That's their job. And they're all from Louisiana.
I can't think of one state that has pulled its weight more than Louisiana.
For 5 months, these two storytellers followed Louisiana troops and filed generally upbeat accounts of the war.
Definitely the Iraq we arrived into at the end of December and the Iraq we left were different places.
On their homecoming, they tell a much darker story. On July 1st, U.S. troops pull out of major Iraqi cities as insurgents dramatically ratchet up the violence. It's a more violent place today than we're hearing about on the news.
Definitely. The last 5 days we spent in Sadr City, one of the days 2 bombs went off right in the sector we were in. You're riding along, just kind of waiting to get hit or waiting for something to blow up in front of you.
This car was part of a 3-vehicle bombing incident.
Anger from the people in Iraq is extreme when these bombs go off. They blame the government for not securing them, and they're furious with the people who are creating the violence.
As security unravels, their final interviews with U.S. troops reflect dissatisfaction.
As long as the coalition forces continue to do for them, they're not going to do themselves.
I get a sense of frustration hearing you talk about this, that the progress that was made is to a degree evaporating?
Well, it's not so much frustration as kind of a sense of hopelessness in believing that the war has a lasting effect.
The country's not ready to take over for itself. I don't know if it ever will be.
After his experience there, Percy believes the U.S. presence in Iraqi cities is what's holding them together.
The things we're trying to do are good, but I don't see them as having much effect.
Phin Percy and Julie Demansky gained more experience in Iraq than they could have ever imagined ahead of time. Their own volunteer mission that began on the streets of New Orleans. Julie's working on a book. She and Phin are also doing a documentary for Louisiana Public Broadcasting.
That's neat. And what are you talked about a last stand by some of the...
Yeah, there is a theory. Hillary Clinton threw this theory out last week that this rise in violence is really a kind of a last stand from the insurgents who are trying to give the impression that, oh, we drove the U.S. troops from the cities. Phin and Julie seem more pessimistic about that, and that's kind of the sense you get of some of the troops there who think that maybe it is more than that.
All right. Your winning Powerball numbers up next.
The Esplanade at City Park has newly renovated interior.